that there's no easy way to bring a child to this world. Whatever route you decide to take, you're doing what's best for yourself, you're doing what's best for your child. So because pregnancy can be a very time of uncertainty, worried about so many things. So if you decide that this is how you want to bring your child to this world, have peace in that decision. Know that you're making that decision based on what you know to be best, and that everything will work out fine. Hi beautiful people, welcome to my channel. This is Neze here. If you're a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. You guys are the real MVP. And if you're new here, I hope you love it here and I hope you get to stay. So today I get to share my very positive elective C-section experience. For the birth of my second child, I decided to have an elective C-section. And I watched so many of these kind of videos when I decided to go through that route. And going through this experience with people, watching their live birth vlogs, listening to them tell their stories, helped me to kind of wrap my mind or wrap my head around what this process will entail. So I'm glad to be able to lend my own voice, and if it helps one or two people, then my job is done. So I have my note here just so I don't forget anything, and let's dive right in. The first thing will be, why did I choose to have an elective C-section? Like, why? The birth of my first child was an emergency C-section. So I was pregnant for 41 weeks and 5 days. And finally, I went into labor. I was so excited. And I was going to give birth to my child. Everything was going to go well. And after being in labor for 48 hours and dilating up to 8 centimeters, suddenly, the doctor told me that his heart rate was dropping. That was the singular most scary experience of my entire life. I was so afraid. I literally thought my baby was going to die. And it took them like 10 minutes, not even, to move me from the birthing room to the theater. It was like a rush, like something out of a Grey's Anatomy movie. If you watch Grey's Anatomy, it was so scary. I was so afraid, so afraid. I thought my child was going to die. So after going through that experience, I decided right there that if I was ever going to have a child again, I didn't want to do labor. I just want to have my baby, have an elective C-section. I kind of feel like I'm in control, or one way or another, of the whole process, because it felt like having my first child, like everything was out of hand. Like I didn't know what was happening. I was so worried, and I had suffered 2 days, of active labor. And at the end of the day, I still had to have a C-section. So it felt like I suffered twice. I was in labor for 48 hours. And I still had to have an emergency C-section. It was like double of the suffering, and I didn't want that this time around. So I talked to my doctor about it, and she was like, if you want to have an elective C-section, you will. So when we were ready and when I was eventually pregnant, C-section was the way to go. So as at the time I went for my 12-week appointment, I knew that my baby was going to be born March 15th of 2022, because that was my exact 39th week, and that was when the surgery was booked for. I had so much peace. Going through that pregnancy, I wasn't worried or anything, because I just knew that he was going to be born on that day. I just made my mind. I walked up until 36 weeks. I prepared for his coming. I had time to cook, to nurse, to prepare his nursery. I had so much peace in my mind, and just knowing that everything was going to work out well. That was this calm I had in my spirit. If you're a praying person, then you know that when you pray, I prayed so much, and I just believed that everything will work out fine. And just knowing that he was going to be born on this day, knowing that everything was kind of pre-planned, gave me so much peace of mind. So if that's what you're going for, if that's the kind of thing that appeals to you, go for it. Don't look back. Don't worry about anything, and just know that you're making the right decision for you and your babe. So I'm going to start by recounting 2 days before that day. So I was told that I was going to have my last meal at 2 a.m. I could have my last meal. I could eat up until 2 a.m. So I made myself like a really nice pot of noodles and fried eggs. So that was what I craved throughout my pregnancy. So I made that for myself. Me and my husband were awake putting together the baby's stroller, because we bought it very last minute. It took us so long to decide on the brand and the type to go for. So we were just awake that day putting together the stroller. I went to his nursery and made sure everything was fine and clean, and I was so happy and so excited. So after eating my noodles, I couldn't even sleep. I was just so, excited, not worried, really, really, really excitement, And I prayed, I sang a lot of praises, and I didn't even know when I slept. I think I slept around 4 o'clock, and then the alarm 4 a.m. And then the alarm woke me up at 6 a.m. So I got up, took a shower, and we got ready and we headed to the hospital. So on the way to the hospital, like we were playing some music. And give me peace. We receive your peace tonight. Oh, amen. It was just so really relaxed. I was just so, at peace. I think that was the most amazing thing of this experience, how much peace I had. So we got to the hospital, I think a little bit before 7 a.m. We were supposed to be there for 7 a.m. So we got in. The moment we got in, the nurses gave us some hospital gowns to wear. So I changed into mine. My husband changed into his own hospital gown, and we took some pictures. If you know me, you know that I don't joke with pictures and videos. So I took as much as I could, captured the memory, and we got ready. So they put an IV fluid in my hand, and they tested me for COVID. The anesthesiologist, for some reason, that word is just hard for me. The anesthesiologist came in and talked to me about what the process was like, how they were going to numb me. So for my first baby, I had an epidural. So it was similar to the process of having an epidural. So I was like, oh yeah, I've done this before. So he went through the process of telling me what to expect and how, I'm going to be numb from here down and all that stuff. So I let him say what he had to say. I listened. They brought a few forms for me. I signed. So my OB came in, spoke to me. He told me, this is what you expect, and this is what's going to happen. This is how long it will take. And do I have any questions? I was like, no, I don't have any questions. So she pretty much broke it down. You go into the theater, we'll cut you, we'll bring the baby out, and, we'll do all that stuff. So they explained everything to me like I was 2 years old. Like they broke it all down. And I was like, okay, yes, okay, kind of makes sense to me, knowing that this is what I'm going to expect, this is what's going to be happening. I loved it. Loved it. So it was such a positive experience, positive morning. Everybody was coming in, being nice, telling me what they needed to tell me. We signed some documents, and it was time. It was go time. So around 9 a.m., they came and they wheeled me into the theater. The only time I was scared, the only time in that process I was scared was when they had to put the needle in, because they told my husband to leave. So I was like, I panicked for a bit. I was going to be by myself. I was like, oh God, what's going to happen? They said the needle is so big. I didn't see the needle. They don't show you the needle. But, you've read so much and you've Googled a lot. If you're like me, you've literally broken down Google with, what to expect and all that stuff. So I was worried that what if I shift? What if it goes through my spine? What if something happens and I'm paralyzed? So those were the fears that I had. And that was the only time that I was afraid. So but I told the nurse, I was like, can I hold your hand? And she was like, yes, that's fine. So I held her, and they numbed my back, and then they put the needle in. To be honest with you, the fear was more than the experience was not as bad. They numb you. So it's not like they're shoving a big ass needle down your back without you having any kind of pain control. No. They control your pain by numbing your spine before they inject you. So they did that, and then they laid me down, and then the anesthesiologist was beside my bed, talking to me, asking me how I'm feeling, whether I'm feeling any pain, whether I'm feeling anything on my leg. They were just poking on my legs, to see if I was kind of feeling something. And it took a while, I think about 10-15 minutes before the place began to get numb, and I wasn't feeling anything anymore. When I touched it's such a out of body experience. I have so much respect for medical professionals. You guys, take your flowers, because how do you do that? How do you do that? So they numbed me, and so at some point I stopped feeling my legs entirely. It was as if my leg was a different part of my body. It was I was two people. The top part was working, I was moving my hands, I was talking and everything, but here down from my upper waist down was numb. I could feel nothing. So, and they were like, are you feeling, they pinched me, are you feeling anything? I said, no, I'm not feeling anything at all. So at that point, the doctor that was to do the surgery came in, and then she talked me through the process. Literally, she was talking to me, telling me what was happening. So she was like, we're about to cut you now. You have some scar tissue from your first one. Of course, I had scar tissue from my first one because it was an emergency C-section. Like, they were literally in and out in 15 minutes. They didn't have time to make it look like, they just did what they had to do. And I was like, yeah, of course, do what you have to. So she removed some of the scar tissue from my first surgery. And something that is worthy of note is that because this was elective and pre-planned, I had the time to tell my doctor kind of what I wanted. I told her that I wanted dissolvable stitches because for my first surgery, that was an emergency C-section, they used the stitches that they had to come and remove a few days after. You don't know pain until you've experienced that. So it was like double the pain. Like I had already had this very painful experience, very emotionally and physically painful. And then 2 days later, a nurse comes to my home and has to remove the whole thing. Oh God. So I told her that I wanted dissolvable stitches. So that was what they used this time around. So she removed the scar tissue and then she was like, we're removing the scar tissue now. We are cutting you open now. I felt nothing. Like literally, I was sitting down there talking to my husband. We're just like gisting. And then they're bringing the baby out now. So I kind of felt like something pulling and tugging, like a tug or a pull, but nothing painful, like no pain. You feel pressure, but no pain. You know that something is happening, but it's like it's happening to somebody else, or you're kind of feeling a bit of pressure in your lower parts. So they brought out the baby, and then he cried. Oh my God. The moment he cried, me and my husband just, bawled. It was such a relief. He's out, he's fine. So they weighed him 9 pounds. Very beautiful baby boy. Oh my goodness. So he was born and they gave him to me to do the skin to skin because I asked them that I wanted to do skin to skin as well. So they gave me the baby for skin to skin. So I held him and they continued to stitch me. So she took her time to kind of, fix the scar tissue from my first surgery. So it was literally like it was no pain. I felt nothing, and I felt like I knew what was happening. She was like, I'm sewing you up now. In a few minutes, we'll be able to move you to the recovery room. So I held my baby for some time, and then they took him, started to weigh him and check him and, do all that good stuff that they do to them. And he just kept crying. So I told my husband, just go stay there, just look at him just to be sure that he's fine. Don't worry, I'm fine. It's not like I'm going anywhere. So they eventually wheeled me to the recovery room. I still couldn't feel my legs. So it takes a while for you to start to have sensation back on your legs. It took a while. Like I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to start having a sensation on my legs again. So when they wheeled me back into the recovery room, I still held my baby. I started to breastfeed and started to wait for me to feel the sensation back on my legs. It took a while. I think it took about 2 to 3 hours for me to feel something on my legs again. And at some point I was like, why is it taking so long? Everything went well. I hope nothing has happened. Normal for you to be afraid, but nothing happened. After a while, I started to feel sensation back on my legs. When I tapped it, I felt something. And after about 2-3 hours, I felt full sensation back on my legs, like I was like fine. Then I started to feel the pain because when you're numb, you just had surgery. So when you're numb, you don't really feel the pain. So the pain kind of comes after the epidural starts to wear out. That's when you feel the pain. So that's when I started to feel the pain. I was like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. Can I get some pain relief? So they gave me some pain relief. And the nurses came, I think about 4 to 6 hours after the surgery. I was like, you have to get up now to prevent blood clot. I tell you guys, you have not known pain until you do that work. Whew! I was crying, a full-blown woman. I was in tears. So they stood me up and then I walked for a few steps. I walked to the bathroom and then I walked back. They're like, yes, now you're working. So the pain is not unbearable. It's manageable. And it starts to kind of get better. Like every day it gets better. So by the second day, I wasn't in as much pain and I wasn't taking pain relief medicine as frequently as I was taking the first day. So by the third day, you're home. You're still in pain. If you cough and you sneeze, you feel so much pain. Like I said, there's no easy way to bring a child to this world. This is my decision that I made, that I wanted to go through that. So I had peace with it. I knew that I was going to, take time for me to feel like myself again, to not be in pain. And it does take a while, But by the 7th day, I noticed I was no longer taking, like 7 days post-op, and this is I was no longer taking my pain medicine, as much. Some days I even forget entirely to them, like, oh my God, like I didn't take any pain medicine today. So it does get better. It does get better. So when you're discharged, you come home and you hold your baby, you take your time to recover. You're not supposed to lift anything heavier than your child for the first 6 weeks, which is very tricky because if you have older children that you have to care for, whatever, or if you don't have people who are there to help you, it can be very, very tricky. But just remember that you just had major surgery. Like, it doesn't matter how much people try to trivialize that process. It's major surgery. So remember to give yourself grace, time to heal, time to get yourself to from point A to point B, then point C. Don't rush the process. Just take it easy, and you find that, with taking it easy, taking your meds, keeping a positive outlook, you will recover a lot more quicker than you will if you're like, being all cranky and so worried about it. So, and I understand that sometimes the emotions you feel post-op or post having a baby is completely out of your control. So if you feel those things, talk to the people around you, people that love you. Let them know that you're feeling a certain way. And if it progresses, talk to your doctor. Don't feel like you have to be superwoman. You're already superwoman. You just had an entire human being or 2 human beings, if you're having twins or triplets, whatever, come out of you. So you don't have anything else to prove. So talk to the people in your life. If you need help, if you need more emotional support, make sure you talk to them. But really, that's my experience. And if you've watched up to this point, thank you so much for watching. And if you've not subscribed yet, please subscribe and join my family. Thank you for watching once more, and see you on my next video. Ciao, Bella.